And the third thing you can do is primary the hell out of anyone who doesn't represent you. And no one does that. And what happens is they talk you into not doing it. Lindsey Graham does this every 6 years. So find some issue, and he'll be like, I mean, he did it during the Kavanaugh hearings, and he did an amazing job. Lindsey Graham's one of the most charming people in Washington. If you wonder why people still listen to Lindsey Graham, it's because he's hilarious, and he's like fun to have dinner with. But the truth is, he's totally non-aligned with the Republican electorate. Like his priorities have nothing in common with the priorities of Republican voters, including in South Carolina. But every 6 years, he'll pick a symbolic issue and he'll be like, I stand with Judge Kavanaugh. And everyone's like, oh, you're such a hero. And then it's back. The second he's elected, it's like, no, it's, hey, shut up, Americans, about your stupid border and your invasion. Nobody cares. Shut up, racist. It's Ukraine. They all do that. And they did it. I mean, no one could be more offended by boys in girls' sports as the father of 3 daughters than I am. So I'm not like pro Dylan Mulvaney or whatever at all. But I also understand sleight of hand when I see it, because I've seen gypsies do 3-card Monte and been the victim of it. It's so fast, you don't know what happened. Like, where's the peanut? Underneath the walnut shell. It was right there. They're too fast. I know what that looks like. They divert your attention. And they use that issue to divert your attention from what they were actually doing, which is ignoring your concerns in favor of the concerns of their donors and foreign countries.
If the primacist types who could get us into multiple wars get in there, you're going to have to get to a more realistic foreign policy eventually.
Well, they'll destroy Trump.
They
could be clear,
his administration.
People like Pompeo, whom I know personally, hate Trump. They hate Trump. And you know, I don't care what he says, or Lindsey Graham says, oh, he's so great. You know, they suck up to him on Fox News, but they hate him and they're working to undermine him. And they did throughout his 4 years in office and the 4 years that followed. They undermined him because they hate him. So I just hope that there is a new generation in the Republican Party of people who maybe aren't even ideological, but just put
common sense. Yeah.
America's interest is the whole point of our government.
We only support America first, non-interventionist candidates. And anybody who has anything to say to you about war with Iran is your enemy. You're not on their side and you're not supporting them. You will not support Lindsey Graham. You know, how the hell, let a Democrat get in. Who cares? Is it any worse than Lindsey Graham? No.
It would be much better.
Probably better.
Of course, because it's more straightforward. I completely agree with you, completely. And it is the neocons. It's all the Republican Senate committee chairmen. It's Lindsey Graham. It's Mitch McConnell. It's all the creepy war worshipers who will immediately, on every other issue, whip around and betray you.
Yeah, no, that's exactly
because they're
right.
fundamentally corrupt, and you just don't agree with them. And you know, maybe some of them are nice people. I haven't met any, but I'm sure that they exist. But yeah, they shouldn't be in the coalition.
So I have some empathy for Zelensky, and I'll tell you why. Because here's a guy who's sitting in the White House, and I feel like he doesn't know. First of all, he's not in power, and he's wondering, okay, I just got off the phone with Victoria Nuland and Susan Rice before I walked in here.
Exactly. And a bunch of low IQ Republican senator warmonger freaks.
Yeah, so probably Lindsey Graham got on the phone with him.
100% Mike Rounds and all these people. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, hey, Vladimir, I've been to Ukraine many, many times. We've been funneling money and weapons to you for a long time. Here's what you need to do. You need to play hardball with Trump.
Exactly.
When you get in there, you need to tell him, we need security guarantees. Trump loves a little confrontation, so just do that. Make sure. And I don't know if you know it, around the 34-minute mark in that confrontation, some little lackey from his staff leans over and gives him like marching orders.
No.
So around the 34-minute mark, we did a thing about it like a couple of weeks ago. He leans over, I think, was it female? Male? I forget. Anyway, leans over right to Zelensky and says something, like for like a minute, is like guiding him,
Wow.
And then stuff hits the fan.
War with Iran.
With Lindsey Graham's full support. This to me is at some point, I hope that we can restructure the Republican Party in the primaries of 2026. That's another topic that would love to discuss with you. But yeah, at some point, Donald Trump won on an America First message.
Right.
It'd be really nice if the rest of the Republicans fell in line with that and understanding that the people voted for change, and the change is what they want with America First, And that includes Donald Trump's approach on foreign policy. That does not include more shooting wars with Iran and others across the globe. At the same time, there is a certain approach that I think Donald Trump brings to foreign policy that brought us peace.
Yeah.
I mean, 4 years of no new wars, peace.
The Republicans are always voting for Lindsey Graham will vote for any Democrat. Sorry, I'll put you in an uncomfortable situation, but there are plenty of Republican senators who are liberal Democrats effectively, and they vote for all kinds of nominees. But you don't see that on the other side.
You never see that on the other side. And they have an appreciation that they have to attack our people at every level, because they know that every level is the stepping stone for
the next level.
Exactly, right? So they don't make us say, oh, this is just like the undersecretary.
Yeah, exactly.
We're opposed to that.
That guy will be secretary someday.
Correct.
Well, you're, I guess, a perfect example, aren't you?
Well, certainly the first term, right? I become deputy, and next thing you know, Mick goes to the chief of staff, and so I have an opportunity to serve as director. And so that is, they understand government, and they understand the career path that is opening for people. And when they sense, and it's not always the case, but when they sense that this is a committed conservative, it's a partisan line down the road.
Anybody who's trying to avoid a nuclear exchange, I'm on your side.
Yes.
And that would include almost no Republican members of the Senate, okay? They're all like full blown. They're old. They don't care. Like I said, they don't care about their grandkids or humanity itself or whatever. They're totally willing to risk nuclear war.
Although Lindsey Graham just took a step backwards, which I thought was surprising.
It's completely silly. He's blaming, look, a lot's going to come out. We reached an impasse on the question of whether Ukraine is selling weapons. They are. That's a fact. And I'd bet my house on it. Okay. I know that to be true, but I can't tell you how I know that. So I'm going to have to just wait to be vindicated, I guess.
But it's not a debate. I'm just saying that it seems that the line has shifted and now Ukraine is the bad guy.
Okay. We haven't heard anything about Ukraine for the past 3 years. You were required, and I got fired over this, so I know. You were required to pretend that Zelensky, who I think is a complicated person, for whom I feel sorry, actually. I feel like he's a pawn among bigger powers, okay? I feel bad for Zelensky. But we were required to pretend that he was Jesus and that Vladimir Putin was Satan. And my only point is that's not true, actually. It's way more complicated than that. Both of them have good and bad qualities. And moreover, it's not our fight. Like, what are we doing there? This whole thing is so nuts just because you're mad at Russia for some reason that you'll never say out loud. We have to take our country to war there? And by the way, can I just say something?
Sure.
Why? I mean, this war has, like most wars that we fight, been promoted by some of the richest people in our country. And I'll name one, Ken Griffin, who is a hedge fund billionaire, has really pushed hard, and I've seen it, behind the scenes to force Republican politicians to support bigger payments to the Zelensky government. And it's like, Ken Griffin's a multi-billionaire. He's probably, I don't know, millions of dollars on lobbying on this issue, but he hasn't spent billions on Ukraine. He could send billions of his own money to Ukraine. A lot of the Ukraine war supporters could do it. They could also go fight the war. They're conscripting 50-year-old men, guys with Down syndrome. The videos are all over the internet, and they're real. I hear from people in Ukraine on this subject.
Those videos I've seen.
Yeah. So I haven't noticed any, Bill Kristol's not fighting in Ukraine. Why is that? Why is Ken Griffin not sending billions to Ukraine? No, what they're doing is pressuring the U.S. media, pressuring the U.S. Congress to do something that they themselves are not willing to do. Up to and including sending American troops, which we have in Ukraine, risking their lives. Why isn't Ken Griffin doing that?
What I've been trying to sell is that if you're going to do the dirty deeds and you do believe they're necessary for statecraft, then there has to at least be an obligation to be honest about them. You know, like I thought it was very honest, you know, when Lindsey Graham finally came out and said the strategic vision of the United States is the $14 trillion worth of natural resources. Relying on the humanitarian predicate for it allows voters to be deceived and for them to then turn around and feel totally hoodwinked when they find out that, hey, why are you paying for the unions, the media companies, things that are acting here on the homeland? We have this tumor that we're removing from the body of the American project. But there was blood flowing into that, and it's connected to all these arteries. The thing that I want to make sure happen that is midwifed appropriately is, what are you changing about our foreign policy structure so that when you remove the tumor, the blood still flows in the way that you want it to. You're not ripping the heart out with open heart surgery.
I get it. I'm just less confident than you are that we're reaping some massive reward for this. I mean, I remember people muttering darkly about, the purpose of the Iraq War in 2003 was to seize the oil in Iraq. Well, that didn't happen.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.